Welcome back. Now there'll be power cuts every evening this week, and rolling blackouts are far from over. This winter has already seen more rolling blackouts than previous years, and the City of Joburg is looking at how to deal with the issue with its first ever Energy Indaba. Today it's focusing on theft and vandalism. ENCA's Heidi Jokos is there, and she joins us now live to tell us more. Very important, Heidi, because this is always something that is blamed every time we get power cuts, etc., especially on a local level. Those who have their stalls out there, what kind of solutions are they giving to government?
Yes, I think it's a massive problem, Masako, and of course there needs to be urgent action and a solution to this. We do know that oftentimes about 10 to 15 people storm substations and either vandalize the property or steal the copper and the cables, which is a booming business at the moment. We also do know that there's a lot of syndicates happening, and this of course impacts us as residents here in the City of Johannesburg, because we are often told that power has been cut because cables and copper has been stolen. But I am joined now by let me just quickly get the Major General Ibrahim Kadwa, who's the provincial head of Hawks here in Gauteng. Thank you so much for your time, Major General. We do appreciate it. You've given an extensive presentation here at the Energy Indaba this morning, speaking about how serious the problem actually is in terms of copper theft. Maybe just paint the picture to us about how dire the situation is.
Good afternoon to yourself and your viewers. The proliferation recently in the vandalism and sabotage of essential infrastructure is becoming a major concern in the country. I think in reality it constitutes a significant threat to national security, economic development, as well as community safety. More importantly is we have criminal enterprises who are very prolific, well-resourced, that are involved in basically orchestrating what we are seeing in terms of targeting the energy sector, as well as the state-owned enterprises in Maine, as well as to a lesser extent stripping of mines to be able to access both essential infrastructure. Now the reason why there is such a huge demand for this, and in fact an insatiable demand, is you are dealing with international markets, and the criminal enterprises have perfected the whole system, from the frontline soldiers, or rather say the people involved in the actual pilfering of this, who are then able to sell it to the bucket shops and then up in the criminal value chain to the scrap metal dealers. And once it comes to the scrap metal dealers, it is then converged, the licit and the illicit, and then from there it will go up. Now what we are also finding in many of the operations we're doing is we're finding that criminal enterprises are basically able to run front companies, so that this is a way they are able to easily integrate the vandalized essential infrastructure into the legal system, which is then destined to global markets. Certainly this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, it's booming, and what is more important is the responses. So as you know, in terms of government, but more particularly law enforcement, we are entrusted in dealing with this as an apex priority. So the first important thing is the new National Commissioner has established the multi-agency economic infrastructure task teams. It is going to be a multifaceted and integrated approach. We're going to have force multipliers where we're going to leverage all capabilities of government, the private sector, so that we can be more swift and more decisive and more impactful in the responses we are going to give in terms of dealing with reducing and mitigating this threat. In terms of the Hawks, we are focusing very much on the top notch of the criminal enterprises, the ones who are basically, or rather say, setting out the whole industry and whatever flows to them. So many of our operations are targeted and directed at those levels. Very intensive work is done. We certainly have numerous ongoing operations. And what is more important is, with the promulgation of the Criminal Matters Amendment Act, what we are finding is really starting to be a game changer, where we're finding that the courts are coming to the party. We're getting much more severe sentences, and as you know, what is an important deterrent there, the maximum sentence is 30 years. And for businesses, you can talk up to 100 million rand. So in terms of how seriously the government has taken this entire scourge, is all demonstrated in this.
And then just lastly, Major General, speak to us about whether or not you think as the Hawks you are winning this fight, because earlier on in your presentation you also spoke about other kind of syndicates that involve cyber attacks, where you have people purchasing electricity to the value of 600 million, if I'm not mistaken, that's the value you said. So it's not just vandalizing and storming substations and stealing the copper, but there's also other ways that this is now happening.
I think the important thing is the Hawks and government has taken this as an apex priority. As I've indicated, that this is forming part of our official mandate to be able to prevent, combat and investigate vandalism and the sabotage of essential infrastructure. So that is a very important reassurance. And despite the challenges, we are rising to the occasion in trying to deal with the syndicates, and I think our track record is there in the length and breadth of the country, where we are dealing with major syndicates. People have been arrested, so I think that's one great reassurance. What is more important is the issue is, yes, the Hawks is very much diversely spread in terms of what we're dealing with. Not only dealing with the vandalism of essential infrastructure, the syndicates are ingenious. They look at all ways that they can basically exploit the energy sector. So what we're finding is, for example, with the vending machines or credit dispensing units, we have investigated syndicates that have basically stolen these vending machines, and then they are able to manipulate the vending machines where they can sell electricity at a fraction of the price. So other than the vandalism, what you are finding is through the selling of that electricity at discounted prices, and what I think with the state of unemployment, poverty in the informal areas, and including commercial areas, everybody is looking for a bargain. So in that way, you find that there basically are also huge revenue losses to the energy sector, to government. And we are dealing with syndicates where we have arrested across the various provinces, where hundreds of millions of rands just in that revenue losses in the audit of maybe numerous machines that we would have seized. So I think the Hawks, the most important thing is we are alive with the realities. We are very focused and vigilant on what are the prevalent and the emerging threats that are causing us the most serious harm, both locally and internationally. And then we are basically factoring this in terms of what we prioritize and deal with on a day-to-day basis, so that we can be able to give South Africa the reassurance, the energy sector the reassurance. Our presence here is again to come and show that we can account to the nation in terms of what the Hawks, but more importantly, what we are doing as whole of government in dealing with this particular scourge.
Great. Thank you so much for your insights. We do appreciate it. That is Major General Ibrahim Kadwa, who is the head of the Hawks here in Gauteng. I think very important insights mentioned here, Masego, on how they are on the ground and they're trying their very best. But it seems as though these criminals are getting smarter and smarter, and these syndicates are growing in different ways to try and basically infiltrate the system and take either copper or sell electricity at a fraction of a price, which at the end of the day affects us residents, and City Power, of course, needing to get a grip onto this. But of course, the Hawks have been brought in now to assist.